You knew I was going to do a chapter review on this chapter because this chapter is giving me a headache right now. Right now, thinking about that cover story. Oh man, Moria Upscale, Moria Glaze in 2025 is diabolical work at your order, and you know it is. The chapter content itself, Harald and Rox alone warranted a review, let alone the other content that we got in this chapter that pertains to Shanks, that pertains to Garling, that pertains to Shanks' mother and Shamrocks, that pertains to Rayleigh and so on. Listen, you knew I was gonna do a chapter review on this chapter, and there is or are some differences between the scanned version I read on my streams versus the official version that came out. And if you don't know, now you know, but I do live stream reactions to obviously the chapters on my Cole Requiem YouTube channel, where I do all those big streams for various series like One Piece and whenever it comes out, Hunter x Hunter, and the same for Black Clover and so on. We do have a post-chapter discussion with the tier 3 guys over on twitch.tv. That's Twitch exclusive content, and some of that will be uploaded to the channel as videos, and you guys see that time and time again. On that note, this chapter, let's just dive right into it. And you guys know the system by now, but if you don't, we're gonna break it down step by step with, first of all, the pace and chapter structure, 1. Number 2 is going to be the character components of the chapter, and number 3, the story progression components of the chapter. So let's tackle that step by step by step here and now. Number 1, the pace and chapter structure. For this chapter, we have 5 parts. The first part is the Roger and Rayleigh and Gabon and the Roger Pirate section, where they mull over Roger's current attitude, a micro flashback, and then back to real time with Roger. I guess back to flashback real time. That's number 1. Number 2 is that we cut over to the Holy Land with Figureland Galling and the 5 elders. They plotting, they scheming, and it's not pretty. Number 3 is that on Pirate Island, we see Roger and his boys arrive to see Shocky, obviously. No Rayleigh's on the ship, which does make Shocky sad. Number 4 is that we go over to the underworld of Elbaf, where we see Rox versus Harald in single combat over a disagreement about the futures, essentially. The future of Elbaf, the future of the Rox Pirates and Rox himself, things of that sort. The Giants as a whole, very important there too. That's number 4. And number 5 is going to be God Valley, a year after that point in time, and 39 years from present, the birth of Shanks, the God King, and Shamrocks. We get to see their mother, and we see that her red hair, both Shanks and Shamrocks have that red hair. So that explains why Garling has, let's say, blonde hair in the anime, because the red hair of Shanks comes from their mother. And that is it when it comes to the pace and chapter structure. Overall, I would say the pace and structure is good. Not great, not fantastic, not bad, not horrible. Overall, just good. The average One Piece chapter pace tends to be 5 to 8 parts per chapter. Most chapters that I give 10 out of 10s for in One Piece tend to have 4 parts or under. This chapter, though, is around 5, and I would say pace-wise, it's good. 7 out of 10 for this particular section. Now, when it comes to the character elements of this chapter as well, not a lot of it is too hefty at all, but some of it is kind of hefty. So, number 1 is going to be Shocky. Shocky herself is bold enough to leave a quote-unquote love letter to Rayleigh. And we say quotes here because it's only 1 sentence. Come get this. Come get some. You know the drill. It's not complicated. Come get this now. ASAP. In the very fine print you can't see, I use a magnifying glass to see it ASAP. She's stoked when Roger comes in because she wants to see Rayleigh. But Rayleigh's still on the ship, not feeling well, quote unquote, which does make her a little bit displeased to where she does faint afterwards. And I'm getting the vibes here that she does have a similar love sickness as to, let's say, Gloriosa or let's say Boy Hancock. Next is Rayleigh. Rayleigh is also simple cut and dry. Rayleigh is into Shocky. Yes, Shocky makes sense because Shocky is on the Mount Rushmore of hottest women of all time in One Piece. Even though I would argue that smoking is points deduction. That's what I think though, but that's just me. The facts are that on paper, when you look at her stats, she performs just as well as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. She's on the Mount Rushmore of hottest women in One Piece. So it makes sense that Rayleigh would be attracted to her like many other men. However, Rayleigh has what they don't. He has focus. He has conviction. Anakin is not pulling up with a red lightsaber in the middle of space-time saying you lack conviction to Rayleigh. No. Yeah, I'm not gonna deny the temptation is there. However, I don't want to be tied down right now. A line that would make Andrew Tate very proud. And it's funny seeing Roger kind of quip back at him saying, no, well, I do. Of course, indicating again how popular and how beautiful Shockey is. I mean, the man moved. He literally shifted Gloriosa out of the way so we got a better view of Shockey. That is Michael Jackson peak levels of attention right there. But that is Rayleigh. Overall, simple and cut and dry for Mayo, Dark King Rayleigh. But after this, we have Saint Figureland Garlic. Now, briefly, because I would say it's not necessarily too out of base, considering how he is a celestial dragon and these guys do view all humans, blue sea dweller humans, as inferior creatures. But he is orchestrating another tournament, the tournament that these celestial dragons go on to when they do their culling games, when they have their fun, their festivals on the islands and they eradicate all of the people and they get hunted down like dogs. He's organizing another game very quickly on God Valley. And what's important, it seems to be obviously the fact that he has a woman on the island, Shanks' mother, likes her enough to the point where he gave her kids. But at the same time, it's also seemingly cool with her being eradicated. He did keep Shamrock, and maybe Shanks was going to be part of that too because they do have Figureland blood. So they are at least in part celestial dragons. The fact that he's going to do that to the mom, who was not such a dragon, where she did probably die during God Valley. No indication of her at all in the Holy Land. So let's just assume for the time being that at least he's willing to kill her, which I think is in lockstep to let's say what we see with Ginny, or Guinea. Where Guinea, the Kuma flashback, she was captured as the 8th wife of one of these celestial dragons. But after Guinea escaped with Bonnie, no attempts or any concern by the celestial dragon that had her as the 8th wife to really get her back or anything of that sort, because again, they don't view people of the lower world as really humans, or more so, they see themselves as above humanity. So that is it when it comes to character, where you can say it's more redundant for Garling, but I'll put it there just in case. And then after that for character, we do have Harald and Rox. Harald and Rox are gonna be together here because what we get here is, I think, a conversation break. And like in a similar way to, let's say, Shanks and Whitebeard in the pre-time skip, where something went wrong in their conversation, and so they had to fight in order to settle it out. And in this case here, Rox and Harald are fighting because they have different outlooks on what's happening for the future, particularly for the giants of Elbaf, where Harald explains that obviously there is a long history, a long legacy of pain that the giants have infused into the world for centuries, where he's trying to go around and show the goodwill of Elbaf. And because him and Ida beforehand, they traveled around the world and they made very good friends and connections that weren't giants but other humans. And he learned a lot from these people. And then a lot of these folks came to help him in Elbaf when they were in dire straits, when they were going through a major famine crisis. The fact of the matter is that he sees the benefits of being a part of the established world circle, the world circle that the celestial dragons and the Holy Land run right now. And for the sake of Elbaf's future and for their prosperity and peace, keyword here being peace. However, Rox disagrees vehemently. I can't say the word vehemently. Vehement. Oh, I can't say it. Rox disagrees a lot. Okay, that word's gonna kill me. He disagrees a lot. He's talking about not peace, but freedom. Freedom matters more than peace, right? Because you, as the prideful warriors of Elbaf, you were not a country of stability. You still had your freedom. You had your culture, you had your way of life. And trying to be in that system, essentially all you're being are military assets for the world government. They would turn you as nothing more than jumped up slaves, effectively. And you can tell how earlier in this flashback, Garp was kind of touting the same energy because the giants would be a major military asset to the Marines. So Rox isn't wrong because Garp proves that Rox is somewhat correct. And that's a very interesting concept because you can see how in one form you have a ruler like Rox that prioritizes, let's say, freedom and doing whatever you want to do. His freedom, let's say, being on the more chaotic side, obviously. His own pirate crew are in many respects free to do what they want to do, even if they're trying to kill each other. Have at it, doesn't matter. As long as they follow him towards a particular goal, initiative, then he's cool with that. And keep in mind too, very important, that he's not necessarily doing this out of the good of his heart, because he also did say a few chapters ago that he did want Harald to join his crew, because Harald, as a giant, can consume a certain ability which can only be properly utilized by a giant like Harald, and in doing so, that's part of the key cornerstones to destroy the Holy Land. So there are for sure reasons, other than, let's say, just, you know, freedom and friendship. That's why he's friends with Harald, for sure. But again, on Harald's side, Harald is thinking more so on the sense of being a leader and a ruler. And when he goes to the nations and he sees how other nations' rulers and kings and queens, they talk about how in the past they were raided by giants and how that stain cannot be so easily removed. He even says, and I quote, "Listen, Rocks, no matter how foolish and impious the such dragons may be, they have the power to usher Elbaf into the circle of the world. No longer will we be on the outside." That right there summarizes his mindset so perfectly. And he's not alone in that sentiment either. Consider the fact that King Neptune himself also came to the Holy Land during the reverie for the sake of Fisherman Island's prosperity and so on and so forth. So he's not alone in these regards and sentiments. He's not. Of course, does he know the full scope of the horrors of these celestial dragons and so on? Probably not. So in terms of character, both Harald and Rocks do get, I think, a pretty nice chunk of character, and they get the most character for their characterizations. Though one more thing for Harald, more so for Harald than Rocks, because Rocks, we know his legacy, we know his power, right? And we did see in the past Harald and Rocks do a Clash of Conquerors hockey, but to be able to fight on par with Rocks for an extended amount of time, do damage, actual substantive damage to Rocks, the same man that seemingly easily beat Admiral off screen. Rocks D. Zebek is the truth, and Harald, by proxy, is the truth. More so than what I first thought. I ain't gonna lie to you. I had a video plan about Harald's power. Thank God I didn't do it, because things have to be adjusted and changed. But there is a translation difference between the scan version and the official version. In the scan version, when this first dropped, the one that I read at least, there is a line that says, "There was no true conclusion and no one won that fight," per se. That seems to be even closer margins than Akainu versus Aokiji, where after 10 days of fighting, Akainu did win. But whatever did happen, it was so back and forth that no one can really beat the other one in the fight. This is only a few years out from God Valley, which means that Rocks is pretty much in his prime. Rocks in his prime was trading blow for blow with Harald, and Harald was able to match. However, in the official version, they use different wording here, where they say, and I quote, "They could not see eye to eye." That's different. Saying that there was no proper conclusion kind of implies more of like the fight itself and like its unclear outcome. Whereas, let's say they're not seeing eye to eye, you can argue, of course, it's more of those same lines, but it's less of the lines of fighting and more of the lines of how they view the future. It's less of a power scale thing in the official version, I think. But you could argue easily that because they're not seeing eye to eye, it's because Rocks couldn't beat him into an eye to eye understanding. But again, the retort could be, well, hold on. Even if he did beat him in that fight, that doesn't mean that Harald's gonna be eye to eye with the guy that just beat him. Yeah, it gets tricky, but I think there is still leeway to say that Harald, I mean, based on the activity alone, there is leeway to say that Harald is close in power to what effectively should be either a really close to prime or a actual prime Rocks D. Zebek. And now we get into the story components of the chapter. And for this, we have to start off with the whole thing with Gekko Moria. So Gekko Moria is now officially Kozuki Moria, though I'm not too sure if it's actually Kozuki or is it a pun that Oda's doing. So we know that in the past, Gekko Moria, he was at Roger's execution during Lockdown. He was there. But also, he did face off against Kaido in the distant past, and his crew got annihilated, and he got so shell-shocked that we see him decades later in the Grand Line. He's so shell-shocked that he wants to make a whole zombie army, because again, he lost all his crew members during the Kaido fight. And we can see that when it happened, it was snowy, so it was Ringo, because Ringo is the part of Wano country that actually snows a lot. So Ringo apparently views Gekko Moria as a hero. If you take the word Gekko and then the kanjis, flip it around in Japanese, they also mean Kozuki. It's like the word pun of emu, where you take emu, flip it around, you get umi, which means Japanese sea, So some of that sort. What kind of gas is going to play on the future? A lot of folks are theorizing that this means that Gecko Moria can read the poneglyphs. Since Oden is also a Kozuri clan member, I would pray to every god across time and space. That's not the case. All deities, whether they be Shinto, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, you name it, please do not make that a reality. Like the Three-Eyed Clan, I think it devalues one of the most prominent characters in the story, a main character, Robin. I think that it is overall a net negative to have someone like Moria knowing the language, not him having the chance to ever use it. That doesn't matter. Just knowing the language, that alone. No good. At least, like, let's say Sukiyaki, he's only in Wano country and he's staying there. Or let's say with the Three-Eyed tribe, it's conditional based on their race's powers. At least there's some buffers that are there. Moria has no buffer. He has zero buffer. And then that pisses me off. No lie. But moving on, after we have that crazy cover story reveal, then we cut over to the Roger Pirates, and we get to see actually what I think is some pretty cool dynamics here between Roger and Rayleigh, and how of course they view Shaki, and seeing Gabon kind of notice that something is off between Rayleigh and Roger, where other crew members don't notice that, but of course he would catch that. Gabon is the lovemaker, he is the savant in these fields, where the other guys are lacking, obviously. The fact that you have later on that chapter, when Shaki is really kind of sad and depressed to not see Rayleigh, you have Roger looking at the situation. He's still cheering, having a good time, but in his mind he's saying, "You stupid Rayleigh, why didn't you pull up? You're on the ship, you're not doing anything. You're just singing Bing Sake. Pull up." So getting more of that Roger and Rayleigh dynamic back in the day, I think it's pretty cool, no lie to you. But then we also get to see interactions between Roger and Roxy Zebek, and they're head to head, no chill. The only reason why they're not fighting each other is because, according to Shaki's rules, in her bar, if you come for her bar, then you get a free pass. No violence here at all. And that was nice to see, I ain't gonna lie to you. Speaking of Blackbeard too, Shaki notices that Rox is having a big grin across his face because apparently he had a son that was born. Now, she doesn't know that, but her intuition's kind of flaring off. And then it's Miss Bucking who actually pinpoints that, where she says, it's not just a woman, that's a face of a new father. So this is the birth of Blackbeard. And as far as you know, according to River Cards, he was born in this place called the Shade Port. It's a secret for an obvious reason. Same reason why Dragon want to keep Luffy secret. If you stand against world government and the Marines, they will make sure that your lineage is snuffed out to make sure that this does not repeat. And obviously, Rox understands that. I have a son, but I cannot let anyone know my son exists because it's too risky. Big Mom is built different, though, because you can see how her kids operate. Katakuri, Daifuku Oven, arms folded. This ain't nothing. This ain't nothing. Nothing. But Big Mom is not on the same level as Rox, right? Rox is hyper infamous, whereas Big Mom, nor near up until much later on in the story. Now, doubling back to Garling. Garling, apparently, is the reason why God Valley started, which makes it even more crazier because Garling is the one that also seemingly has a wife, or not, I said wife. He has a lover on God Valley, and God Valley is where his kids are born, and he's like, burn all to the ground. We need to have the next tournament on God Valley. He convinces the elders, and he does so by explaining that there's a few things that are very unique about God Valley. And I quote, God Valley is an unaffiliated nation with its own unique culture. The island is rich in resources and would be a great benefit to us. On top of that, I found something preposterous there. A discovery I never expected to make. I won't dive too much into this, honestly. I'm gonna try and do another video on this one because I think it actually may pertain to the mural. And also, he knows about Emu. He knows about Emu's existence, as we see nowadays many other of the Holy Knights do. Garling is intense, man. I'll put it like that. He might be the greatest asset in terms of an individual's power that the world government have. He might be just him. It's either him or Akainu. And then quickly, we do cut over again to the whole fight scene between Rox and Harald that we covered already in the catechism for the most part, but ultimately it does happen, and we see how they have their break in their conversation. And I think it's heavily implied that Harald was overall okay with trying to kill Rox. He just said that he was torn by that, but Rox just can't believe that at all. Like, there's no way you're being this serious about actually trying to kill me. That's insane. But again, Rox is someone that is an infamous marauder across the entire world, whereas, you know, Harald's a king of a country that's the elitist people that has centuries of time as a giant to consider the prosperity and the health of his nation. It kind of feels in a similar way to Oden, the Chat of Wano, where Oden could have made a move on Kaido and company, because Kaido even admits that during the Oden flashback. He says that if you actually made your move 5 years ago when you started twerking it up, you could actually be an us. But of course, in the process, many cats would have died. And he's known to be soft for that reason. And I think in a similar way, you have Rox. When he does his air cannon move type thing, he calls Harald soft in that way too. But in a similar way, you can argue that peace is more important than freedom. Stability is more important than freedom, because what's the point of being free when with that freedom comes also a large amount of chaos and instability? Finally, again, we see that clash of Conquest hockey between the two. And then, of course, we get to see what happens on God Valley, where Shanks and Shamrock are born, and we get to see their mother with red hair. So overall, I'll say this chapter is a pretty damn good chapter, hence why I'm doing a review for it. I would say 8.5 out of 10 for this chapter. Absolutely. It does a lot of things well, for sure. And I enjoy seeing a lot of that Rox and Harald element. Reminds me of Kalgara and Norland back in the day. I like it a lot. And for very prominent characters too. Rox for sure, but Harald so much more so now because of his ties to Rox. It's insane. So, and they're not done yet, because apparently there's more, because until the day of that fateful incident, there's more Rox and Harald content to come. These two are good. These two are good, and Harald is, right at this point in time, the greatest giant in the entire series. And as a character, he's only getting deeper because we now know that, yeah, he does join up, he links up with the Holy Knights and the Holy Land, because we see the magic circle under the carpet when we first go into the castle. Brothers, Harald's story is far from over. To me, it's very intriguing. I ain't gonna lie to you. I won't lie to you. So, on that note, let me know your stance on the subject matter at hand. If you enjoy your boys' video content, give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell to join the notification squad. I'm gonna catch you guys and gals on the flip side. Be easy, take care, have a nice one.
See you. Bye-bye.